All righty, so I'm going to share my screen. So you should see something like the home page for our class. This is where you go for the class meetings. So this was the Monday class. I have that posted, and it took a while to process that, but I got it up fairly quickly. But it should be within one day. We'll have this video posted right here. Definitely by Thursday. Okay, so the first assignment here is this electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing. We can go over the other stuff. I'd like to go over this right before you guys go in the lab, that pre-lab quiz, the safety, looking at the equipment and things like that. We'll worry about that next week, probably a week from today, Wednesday. All right, so here's the assignment, the electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing. After reading the lab, so you read the lab. Now, if you don't have the lab manual, I have a copy of it here in a PDF form, so you can download that. So someone that was asking me where it is, here's the lab. All right, so just let's take a look at that. So you read the lab, you kind of get an idea for what's going on, but you don't know exactly what's happening. So it's good to try to do this pre-lab quiz to see maybe if it'll pinpoint some areas that you're a little shaky on. All right, so this first question here says the pH of a 15.25 molar solution of H plus is, so they want you to calculate the pH. Let me see. And they give you this equation to calculate the pH. pH equals minus the log of that concentration, which they give. So it seems like it's a simple mathematical solution. Now, when you punch this into your calculator, you get a whole bunch of digits. So the problem becomes picking out the choice with the appropriate number of significant figures. In order to figure that out, you have to look up the deal with the characteristics and the mantissa. Now, that's what you generate whenever you take the log of a number. You don't generate another number with units. In fact, they're unitless numbers that you get after taking the log. So it's not even a number, right? It's some sort of a beast. So I take the log of 15.25, right? And I know that has 4 significant figures. What I generate is this beast, which has a character to the left of the decimal, and a mantissa is all the digits to the right of the decimal. The mantissa is said to hold the number of significant figures. So what that means is that since this has 4 significant figures, I have to have 4 decimal places. And that's it. To the left is a power of tens holder, or it's called the characteristic. So you see, this is in the tenths place, it's 15, it's not 20. If it was 20 or over, then the first number, the character, would be a 2 here, and it's not, they're all ones. But anyway, this guy here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places after the decimal. That's the mantissa. But this only has 4 significant figures, so it needs 4. So this is the right answer, and that's why. And these other questions are going to point to other areas that you may or may not get well, or you might think you know, so you pick the answer and it's wrong. Well, you can identify some weaknesses in understanding, and that's what these pre-lab quizzes are all about, is for you to go through the reading, and then they pinpoint some of the weaker areas of student understanding. Any questions on the quiz?
Well, yeah, like on the bottom stuff, like I was going through like the lecture notes for at least like the chemistry class, and a lot of this stuff is like calculus stuff, and it's like, I don't know.
Okay, when you say you were going through the bottom stuff, what do you mean?
Well, no, no, like this stuff, like the a to the t of m equals negative k m slash s t s plus a
Oh,
circle.
you mean these integrated rate
Yeah,
laws here?
yeah, it's like a lot of the stuff you would need calculus to like even understand it. So it's like,
Yeah, well, see, that's not quite true. Now, you would need calculus to derive it.
mhm.
To understand it, I can explain it to you.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. So
And
I don't
so
know.
if you don't understand it, then I need to see, I haven't explained these yet.
Okay, yeah,
After I explain these equations, if you still don't understand it, then it's my fault.
no, I think I understood it. Okay, it was just like, I don't know. Whenever there's like a bunch of information, even when it says like, oh, you need calculus, like I always like, I I don't know. I always try to force myself to understand it. So it's like, I don't know. Whenever there's a bunch of extraneous information, it's always makes things more complicated for me.
Yeah, because you can go out in that on that path, right? And you can go down that rabbit hole and learn a whole bunch of math about calculus and integration and things like that. But you don't really have the time, and that's the key, I think, to the courses that you take in college. You're given only a semester to learn this much, but there's
Mhm.
so much more to learn. When if you ever join a research group at some
Yeah.
bigger institution or something like that, and you get onto a research project, then chances are your research project is going to expand outside of the area of your degree.
Yeah.
In other words, I got a chemistry degree. I went to graduate school. I started doing research in theoretical chemistry. Next thing you know, I'm taking courses in physics department because I needed to brush up on more physics or learn about solid state physics, which I never had before, and
Mhm.
how electrons interact in solids,
Mhm.
um, and things like that. So when that happens in your career, then you learn it because you need to learn that specific topic to
Mhm.
solve a problem in your area. And so this is good training,
Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
I mean, I've already taken calculus, so I just tried to like derive the things. I think I got partway through, and then I just sort of like gave up just because of the weird, just yeah,
Oh, so you had calculus?
yeah. I took calculus.
All right. Well, I'll show you when we get to it where the equations come from.
Yeah, I mean, I got like partway through them, but I don't know, like all like the weird notation and stuff just made everything complicated.
Mhm.
I mean, like I understood the calculus part mostly, but I don't know. I've always found like combining the chemistry and the calculus to be kind of difficult. So yeah.
No, it's not. I'll show you when we get to it.
Uh, all
All
right.
right. Yep. Cool. Any other questions? All right. So that's the pre lab quiz. It's kind of just to pinpoint maybe weaknesses in your understanding after reading the lab. So ideally, before you meet for lab at school, you should read through the lab and kind of know in general what you're doing there that day. Not the specifics, not, everything and how they all connect to each other, just a read through. And then this quiz here is designed by me to maybe press you a little bit more in certain areas to learn some other details. So it's only 3 questions. So we went through that. Now, the next thing is this Excel spreadsheet file where it has presumably some experimental data that you now have to process. or in the lab, they call it work up. So you're working up this data that you got experimentally because you want to come to some sort of conclusion, okay? Now, the data in this spreadsheet, if you open it, and I did open it down here. Can you guys see this screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So this is your Excel spreadsheet. And some people don't have Excel, they have Google Sheets or whatever. I don't care what you use. It's just that I can't help you so much with the Google spreadsheet because I don't know it. You'll have to figure out your problems with Excel. I'm pretty comfortable with using this one. But if you get the job done, I don't care exactly how you do it. All right, so check out this. This is presumably some experimental data of time and concentration. Well, it turns out that this is going to be experimental data which will allow you to say something about the kinetics of this reaction. They don't tell you what the reaction is. They don't tell you what the identity of the concentration that this refers to. You know, is it methane or is it some octane reactant or whatever? They don't say what it is. It's not important. It's just some reaction with some reactant we can call A if you want. And usually in chemistry lingo, we use those brackets to identify a concentration. But here it says right here, concentration. So anyway, you see the concentration decreases in time. Here's the time. All right. Now, what you're supposed to do is you go through the lab manual, which I also have over here somewheres in a PDF form. No. Right here. Okay, so here's the lab manual part that's also included in that section for ESCG in Canvas. So this is copied right out of your lab manual. So if you guys have your lab manual, you'll see this as the lab, and I think it starts on page 1. Yeah, it's the first one. So this is page 1 in your lab manual. If not, it's here online and you can download it. Okay, so you read through this and it's kind of like a tutorial, and it takes you through Excel and how to use it and all the different features that you're going to need to work up a lot of the data that you have to for Chem 201. So the tutorial goes on and has you put in all kinds of data and then do calculations with it, plot it, fit it, and so forth. So just getting used to the program. So you should do that tutorial. So if you haven't done it, then at least read through it and try some of the things in there to make sure that you can do, for example, plots and fit them to mathematical formulas and so forth. But yeah.
When we do the tutorial, are we just doing that on a blank Excel sheet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, all that tutorial stuff, none of that you're going to hand in. That's all just for you. Okay, that's just for you to learn some of the key operations in Excel. Now, if you can do those things with Google Sheets, which I assume you can, then that's fine too. It's no problem. So you'll be able to work up this assignment. So now at the end, we get to the assignment in section 10. And so it says, open up that file, which we have open, and do these things 1 through 8. All right. Now, today, what I want to talk about now is 1 through 7. So this will be part 1. Part 2 will deal with 8. The reason why I want to split off 8 is because 8 ties closer to finding the rate equation using what's called the graphical method to determine the order. And I assume that in your lecture, you haven't gotten to this part. And this is one of the reasons why, if you take the lab and the lecture, you should take them at the same college, because we're doing kinetics in our lecture, we're doing kinetics in our lab. Some of the other colleges are doing other things like equilibrium. But anyway, I want to hold off on 8 until next week, and maybe you'll have 1, 2, or 3 lectures under your belt, and then I think it'll make more sense. But I think we can do 1 through 7 fairly easily, just from the tutorial that you look at in this lab manual. All right, so what I want to do then is to go through 1 through 7 with you and take any questions that you have. So that's what I plan. If there's any questions, please just go ahead and holler. Okay. All right, so what I have up here now is that electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing ESCG1 file that's posted in Canvas. And now I'm going to look in my lab manual, which is also posted in Canvas, at page 9, section 10, where the assignment starts with number 1. So number 1 for your assignment, it says take this file, enter your name in cell A1. So you're going to put your name up here because you're going to upload this as part of your report. So you put your name, enter your class number, adjust the time in the column to the 10th place. So here's the time column, and they want you to adjust that to the 10th place. So to do that, from the tutorial, I can select this whole row and then move that decimal place over one way or the other. Okay, it doesn't like that. Why? Maybe because it's not a number. Let's try that again. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I was selecting the whole column and it had titles and stuff in it. Whenever Excel kind of gives you problems when plotting or doing something like I just did, try not selecting the words, just the numbers. And in this case, that worked. So I adjusted all my times to now have between 2 significant figures and 3, right? And so that's what it wanted in number 1. And remember, number 1 looked like, let's see. Enter your name in A1, enter CRN, class number, and then it says adjust the time column so that the measurements are to the 10th of a second. So that's what I just did. I changed that file, the Excel file, so that the time is to the 10th of a second. So I'm done number 1. Number 2 on that file says complete the spreadsheet using the appropriate formulas. Enter all titles, numbers, and so forth. So the spreadsheet has 2 more columns, so I have to complete it. So I have to use my knowledge from the tutorial to do this. All right, so I know that I need to take the natural log of the concentration, the column before this one. And so I can do that very easily with Excel. I don't have to use a calculator. I start by putting in equals. As soon as I put that equals sign in right there, Excel gets excited and opens up this equation window up at the top. Here, watch again. So I put the equal sign and it starts to activate this. Now I want to find the natural log, ln. And so Excel's going to help me. As soon as I put in something, it gives me a whole bunch of options. And as I go further, the options minimize or narrow. And I go, okay, that's the one I want. So I'm going to take that. And now I double clicked on it and it says, okay, now you're going to take the natural log. What number do you want? So it wants an address. And I can put that address in according to the tutorial because I know how to do that. Or another way is just to come over here and click on this number and keep it left clicked and copy. And it will copy, Excel will copy the range for what you want the calculations to be done. Like that.
Wait, so there's an Excel tutorial?
Yeah, and then I just return it. The Excel tutorial is in the lab manual. That's the first 8.5 pages.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you can see how easy I just generated all those calculations using Excel. I don't want to be doing that on my calculator if I don't have to. And then I go over here and I can do the same thing. This time I want 1 over. That's easy. So I put in equals again. I put 1 and then slash divided by, and then I can click this here, right? And then return. Boom. And I have my calculation. You could put it in your calculator. You're going to get the same answer. Now I want to do that all the way down and fill down. And I know the difference between global and relative definitions. And this is relative definitions. So if I want to repeat that calculation all the way down the column, I know because I did the tutorial that all I need to do is to come up to this number here, change my hollow cross into a dark cross when I put it in the corner, click it, left click, drag down, and it does all those calculations for me. And I know that the calculations are right because I can go up to any one of these blocks and see what the formula is up here in the formula window. So, oops, I kind of screwed that one up. I'm going to have to redo that. And that's not a problem. I can put that cross here and go up and it will recalculate that number. So if I put my arrow in that block, it tells, the formula tells me what's going on. Equals 1 over B6. Here's column B and there's 6. And if I come down here, the formula changes to 1 over B14. And that's B14 right there. So I see that it's doing the calculations right because I can check the equations anywhere I want. All right. Any questions on generating those? Okay, so we're still working on number 2 on page 9 of your lab manual for the report. And number 2 says, make sure that these generated columns, the columns that you just calculated that are based off of experiment, reflect the appropriate number of significant figures. So I see that this number here, this concentration has 5 significant figures. This value here only has 3 in the mantissa. So this has 3 significant figures. The character, remember, doesn't count for significant figures, which is to the left of the decimal. So I'm going to need to beef this up to 5 digits after the decimal to reflect 5 over here. And I'm going to do that all at once. Okay, so I'll just go through all the numbers, whoops, and make them have 5 significant figures or 5 decimal places in this case. And I messed that up, so I'm just gonna go back and try it again. So I just want to select them and then come over here and give myself some more decimal places. There's 4. Another click is 5. So now this has 5 sig figs. This has 5 sig figs. Now, if I look down this column for the experiment, I see that it goes from 5 sig figs to 4 here. I'm like, okay, so this is no good. I got to go to 4 for these. So I have to change the number of sig figs in my generated column here back 1, because all of those values only have 4. Now that's good. All right, so this column is good. The generated calculated values in that column appropriately represent the number of significant figures from the experimental data. And that's what you have to do for number 2 of your report. Check out this column here. The 1/over concentration has to reflect the right number of sig figs. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sig figs here. 5, that's good. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, good. Here, no good. So I have to change this to 5. In fact, I'll just go through these first bunch that have 5 and make sure they all have the right number of sig figs. Okay. Now I think they do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. These guys go down to 4 sig figs here. So I'm going to select them and make sure they all have 4 sig figs, which they do now. And they don't need to be expressed in scientific notation. So I don't have to worry about that in number 2. And it says adjust the size so that it all fits on one spreadsheet. So that looks good. And that's it. Number 3 says print a copy of this. Well, you don't have to print this because you're going to upload it as your report. You're not handing in a hard copy. Okay, so you don't have to print. Whenever it says print here, just know that that's what you load up as part of your report. So number 3, print a copy of the completed spreadsheet. 4, print a copy of the completed spreadsheet with data and formulas showing. All right, well, they just want you to show sometimes in these spreadsheets, you can show these instead of numbers, you can show formulas if you used formulas. And when we press here, you see that was an entered number because it just comes up in this window here as a number, but here it comes up as a formula. So I think I can show those formulas by clicking some sort of a button here. And I'm not sure, view, window. Is it in data? Formulas. Right here, show formulas. So if I want, I can ask Excel to show the formulas in my spreadsheet by doing that or not. So click here, show formula or not. So that part of the exercise is just to see if you could find that button if you want, and show your formulas that you're using in the spreadsheet. Now, if you're using Google Sheets and you can't do that, don't worry about it for your report. Just say, hey, Google Sheets doesn't do it. And I'm not going to take off for that.
Google Sheets can do it.
Oh, awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's basically the same thing. You just go under view and like, then it shows what you just did.
Nice. It's great to have an expert in Google Sheets here. So
I
thank
wouldn't say
you.
expert, but
Well, you know a lot more than I do. So it makes you my expert. Okay, good. So we're good up to
Professor?
yeah.
So I understand up to 3, but for section 4, are we gonna, since we're not printing that for the formulas,
Mhm.
how are we
You
submitting
can just,
that to you?
yeah, you could just save it. So
So we're saving 2 different documents then?
yeah,
Okay,
and then upload them
okay,
for your report. Yeah, thanks for asking that.
yeah.
All right, good, good. Any other questions? All right, so now we're going to move on to
Oh, I have a
5.
question on how to submit it. Do you want us to submit it as an Excel file, or can we submit it as a PDF,
You know
especially if
what?
we're using Google Sheets?
My policy for submitting is anything, you can submit it any way you want, as long as I can read it. Okay, you can take pictures of it and upload that, or whatever you want to do, whatever's easiest for you, and I can read it. If I can't read it, I'm gonna say, I can't read it. You're gonna have to try something else.
Gotcha.
Does that-
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking though. Yeah, so whatever's easiest. Okay, so number 5 wants me to construct graphs of concentration versus time. The graph should be properly titled and labeled according to the tutorial in your lab manual. And then it goes on to say the axis should have units, appropriate units, the right number of significant figures should be represented in any equations and so forth. So we're gonna make up these plots here using Excel. So what I want to do is make up the time versus concentration plot for you. And in Excel, it's really easy to make plots. So what you can do is just select those 2 values. Notice I did not select the titles. That tends to confuse Excel and make something weird. So I make a scatter plot right here. And then I could put in the titles later, according to the tutorial, which when you guys do, if you haven't done already, then you'll know how to do this stuff. You know, select, put in an appropriate title like concentration versus time, and so forth. You can add axes and titles and stuff like that by clicking over here. And for example, if you want to do this axes here, then you're going to want to put in concentration, so a name of what you're plotting, and if it has units, put the units in parentheses, and that's according to the tutorial. So you know, you would know that time over here, t with seconds in parentheses, you know, stuff like that. So that would be perfect plot. Now I want to do the next plot. So again, I have my X is selected first. And now if I want to skip that line for this, or this column for concentration, and go to the log of the concentration, to do that, I think you can just press Control and then select downwards, and it will skip that column. and then let up. Then go back to insert, scatter plot, and now I have my next plot. And I can do my titles with that too. And the same thing with the last one. So I got, and this is all the stuff that you learn in the tutorial. So control, I'm not sure if this shortcut's in the tutorial about skipping columns. In fact, I don't think it is. This one you just learn from using Excel. Insert, scatter. And so there we have our 3 plots, and you can label yours. Now this one, obviously, this one is the one that's trending linearly. So we wouldn't want to plot this and fit it to a line because it's not a line. It's a curve. So why fit it to an equation of a line? Now this one is. That's the one we want to fit. This one, again, is definitely curving upward. So we don't fit that one. So you know how to have Excel give you the equation of the line from the tutorial. I just pick any point in that series and I right click on it and I say add trend line. Then this pops up, this window pops up in Excel, and I click the linear, and I want to display the equation on the chart. So I'm going to click that. And an R-square value, which is a goodness of fit. The closer that is to 1, the better that mathematical function is to a line, or the more linear it is. Okay. And so here I have it down here. Excel gives me the equation to a line. Now, according to the tutorial, you have to format this equation and make it appropriate to the plot that it describes. And so that entails you taking this out and putting in what the y-axis is for this plot, which is ln concentration. And that's unitless, so I don't have to worry about anything in parentheses. Then I have, that's the y. I have the slope here, which is minus 0.0714. And that slope has units of rise over run. The rise is unitless. Remember, that's the log, the y-axis. And the run, or the x, has units of time. So the units of slope is 1 over seconds. So that goes in there. X, I take out, of course, because I want to put the appropriate name of the quantity that I'm plotting on the x-axis, which is time. So I put in t, and that has units of seconds in parentheses. And then we have the slope over here, which is unitless. Because the slope is equivalent, I'm sorry, not the slope, that's the y-intercept. The slope's back here. The y-intercept has the same units of the y-axis, which is unitless. Now, this equation should be consistent with its units. All your equations, every equation in the world should have consistent units. So let's see if it does. Y has no units, LNC, that's unitless. That equals the slope times the time. When I take the units of the slope, 1 over seconds, times the units of the time, seconds, the seconds cancel out. So this term here is also unitless. So I have a unitless number equals a unitless number plus a unitless number. So this equation mathematically is consistent in its units. And it's good. That's a good thing. And you should check that whenever you have an equation. The units have to be consistent. Apples have to equal apples. They can't equal oranges. Okay. All right. So that's number 5. Let me read this number 5 to you. It says, construct a graph of concentration versus time and print this as page 3. All right. So that's that one here. So you're going to print that. Well, you're not going to print it. You're just going to upload it. And then it says the graph should be properly titled and labeled like I did. The axis with the appropriate units. And it should represent the number of significant figures that are reasonable for the axis. Okay. So if I look at this guy, I see that the time has 3 significant figures between 2 and 3. Hey, and that's what the time significant figures has, between 2 and 3. So that's good. Now, this axis has between 5, no, I'm sorry, right here, 5 and 4. And that's what it has. So it's good. The number of significant figures on the axis is perfect. So I don't need to change that. And then it goes on to say, if this graph exhibits a linear relationship, well, that one doesn't, but this one does. Okay. So you're still going to have to fix the title and the axes with the appropriate units. I'll leave that to you. And then number 5 goes on to say, if it exhibits a linear relationship between the parameters, use the computer to add a trend line, which we did. Format the trend line so that the equation relationship is displayed on the graph, which we did. Then it fools around with some fonts, format it like we did, and make sure it has the right number of significant figures, which we should check. Okay, so the slope has 3 significant figures, and the slope is the rise over the run, which is the change in the y, and the y axis is the log of the concentration, and that has between 5 and 4 significant figures. But this one only has 3. Well, that's because it's over x, and x, the change in x, has between 2 and 3. So really, that slope should only have 2 significant figures, but it's between 2 and 3. And so I like to give just a little bit more information if I can. So I'm going to leave it at 3. And you should know that anytime that you have to present a value with the appropriate number of sig figs, if you give me 1 extra, I'll let it slide. And just don't give me 2 extra or 1 too less. That's no good. You're losing information. It's better to be a little over than under, I think. But then again, you know, it's up to whoever's paying you. If you're working at a research institution or whatever, do what they want. But you can see where that comes from. So the slope, that's good with 3. The intercept has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is okay because that's 1 over as well. The concentration has significant figures between 5 and 4. So it gave a one with, well, 5 or 4. So it's okay, maybe 1 over, but I'm going to leave that as well. So that's number 5. Any questions on number 5 in the assignment? All right. Number 6 wants you to do the graph that we already did, this one. So this is number 6. We just went through and did all the steps. Number 7, we already did with this guy down here. We just have to finish the titles and so forth. Any questions then on the first part of this electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing assignment?
Is the part 8 the same as the pre-lab?
No.
Oh,
The-
no,
the
no. I guess
part
not.
8, the part, yeah, the part 8, which we're gonna do, or we're gonna take a look at on Monday. I'm gonna give you guys a little chance maybe to digest a couple lectures before we get to that. And it deals with the rate law and determining the order of a concentration dependency on rate.
But we have to do a pre-lab too, right?
Well, the pre-lab for you guys is to read the lab and then do the pre-lab quiz.
Oh, but we don't have to write down like the entire, like, I know before we always did like a pre-lab where you did introduction and like just a bunch of other stuff. So
Yeah, you know, you should do that, but I'm not going to check it or grade it. Because I figure, you know, you can do that from Chem 200. You've done it all the whole semester in 152. And it's also in the syllabus. It's outlined. So it's good practice to do your pre-lab, but I'm not going to grade it. Does that answer your question?
yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions? Okay.
Hi, Professor. I have one question. Just to clarify, when we turn this in, we're going to be attaching 5 different documents, correct?
Well, yeah, you can do that, or you can make one big document and attach that, whatever's easiest.
Okay.
Yeah. So any other questions before we break for the meeting?
Wait, break for what meeting? The like.
I'm sorry, break for this meeting.
Oh, so like this thing's over?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
awesome. So I'm just going to hang out here. If there's any questions, you guys can answer. If not, I'll see you on Monday.
Thank you, Professor.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Professor.
Bye, thank you.
Have a nice weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Professor, where can we get the lab manual again?
I believe maybe somebody can help out who has the lab manual before you leave. But I think you can order it from the bookstore, and for a fee, they'll send it to you.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
Another possibility is to order it from the publisher, Montezuma. So it's the San Diego State bookstore, Montezuma. That's who publishes this. Montezuma Publishing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
All right, bye. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.